Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Hey Dylan, a conversation between creatives where you ask me questions and I combine my experience and my strategic brain to form an answer to sort of help you out. This is not legal advice and I am no business guru, but sometimes you just need some words of encouragement or an outside perspective to keep moving. And so that's what we are here for. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. Question 1 comes from Elijah, and he says, university studies for design and illustration aren't giving me confidence that I'll be successful or knowledgeable after graduation. I have so much anxiety for the future. Any advice? Well, the good news, Elijah, is that you aren't knowledge-less. Your school that you are at, whatever one it may be, is equipping you with something. And so I would take a second to try and take stock of exactly what that is. No school is going to make you perfectly ready to be successful, especially in a creative career. I don't think that there's any school that can just whip a person into shape to be this successful artist as soon as they leave school. Some specialize and do better than others, but every school has an area that they're really strong at and an area that they're sort of leaving you with a weakness. And that's okay. So take a look at what your school is giving you. Is it one of those, I know from experience, not from my experience, I didn't go to art school, but I know from talking with other artists that have gone to art school that one of the best things they usually give you is this safe place to do things over and over and over again so that they become second nature. So things like composition or understanding the elements and principles of design, you work them so many times that you don't really have to think about it anymore. It becomes part of your process. And so if that's what your school is giving you, then maybe some of the things that you're lacking are networking or understanding the business side of things. Maybe it's one of the newer creative schools that has come up and they aren't giving you the foundational knowledge that you need, but you've got a ton of hands-on technical information and like you know how to use Photoshop. Or maybe it's a school that has worked really hard on networking and has great relationships with the brands that you want to be working with. Whatever it is, jot it down so that you know what you kind of already have, and then make a list of what the gaps are in your education. What are you missing? Are you missing a network? Are you missing the theoretical knowledge? Are you missing more hands-on experience with needing to just get in there and do the work? Whatever it is, you are able to fill that gap on your own. In fact, when I dropped out of school, it was because I felt like the curriculums that were being offered that I could take at the time were very expensive and also already teaching me the things that I had just learned. And so not that it's bad to reinforce knowledge, but at the time, I really didn't need another introduction to Photoshop course. I needed the advanced stuff. I needed the stuff they weren't teaching students. And so I left school and was able to fill those gaps myself. And so start filling your gaps. If what you need is a network, then I would say start either buddy up with someone at school that you feel really inspired by, make sure that you keep in contact with them, or lean on your social media. Start reaching out and trying to find people that are like-minded. Reach out to an artist that you're inspired by and politely ask them if they would be willing to answer some of your questions or if they have any resources that you can learn from or how they learned, whatever your gap is, and, start to figure it out. I think that it's okay to feel like you are still missing some pieces. In fact, no school could take away that feeling from you. No matter what you've learned in your education so far, there would be things that you need to learn yourself and kind of fill in yourself, and you can totally do it. I have confidence that you can. For example, one of my weaker points that I had was I didn't understand how to use color. I didn't know color theory. And even without knowing color theory, I didn't even really know what colors I liked. And so that was a big pain point for me. And so I started learning about it. And now that's one of my biggest strengths. It's one of the things that I get praise for from my Instagram following and from clients all the time is just how different and interesting my color palettes are. So in that regard, maybe start with either the thing that is scaring you the most that you are lacking, or maybe it's something that you're most curious about or most excited about, But either way, just start with that one thing because you also don't have to fix it all at once. I certainly don't have all of my stuff figured out, but I'm working with clients all the time and I make enough money to survive and be happy, and I enjoy the work that I'm doing. So don't feel like you have to figure it all out as you're entering the workforce too. Just try to take stock and try to fill in the gaps where you see them. Okay, question number 2. This comes in from Silje, and she says, I'm applying for internships right now, and I am so scared. I've never had a job in this field, graphic design and illustration, before, and have literally no idea what I'm doing. Do you have any tips on how to keep the fear at bay and on how to deal with job interviews? Well, Silje, the good news is that you don't know nothing. Clearly, there is something that you've done that's gotten you to this point of applying for internships, whether that's school or self-learning or just an interest you've had. And so give yourself some credit where it's due. It's not that you don't know nothing. But also, the point of an internship is for people who don't have experience but have some knowledge and want to put it to work and want to learn how to work in this industry. It's exactly what they're there for. When I was younger, I really wanted to learn how to dance, and my family really sweetly one year saved up money to do it. They surprised me and said that I could take some dance classes. But when the reality of it came through, I realized I was really scared and didn't want to take any of the dance classes because I didn't want to show up and look stupid in front of the other girls. And it was finally my family was like, you can't learn how to dance before taking the dance class. And so you can't have job experience before you have some job experience. And so instead of feeling scared about what you don't know, just feel empowered by it and realize that those are all the things that you're going to get more information about while you're interning. And so I kept the fear at bay when I was first starting out by telling myself I could ask as many questions as I needed. I gave myself permission to say I don't know to questions, because it really is okay to not know, especially when you truly don't know. And you're not going to learn by pretending that you already know. Can't learn to dance before you take the dance class. So realize that the point of an internship and the point of entry-level positions, people know that you don't know yet and that you're trying to figure it out. And so, and plus the people who show that they're curious, who aren't self-conscious about what they don't know, those are the people that jobs and employers like to work with because they know that they can teach you. They know that they can work with you to make you stronger. So that's all a good thing. As far as job interviews go, I think it's very easy when we are the interviewee to feel like, I need this job and this person has this job, and therefore the power shift is I've got the lower hand here. But the truth of the matter is you need a job and they need an employee. And so it's not just you trying to win them over. They need to win you over too, because do they deserve your time? Do they deserve your talent? Do they have the projects that you want to work with? Do they have a team that invigorates you? And I think when you can remember that they too are looking, you can kind of balance that power shift right back out. And you can come into it more relaxed because it might not be the right job for you. And so your job during the job interview isn't to impress and win them over. It's to feel out the job and to truly understand what they're looking for so that you yourself can figure out if you're the right fit for the job. And so when you go in there, really listen to what they're saying and take the time to answer their questions. You don't have to have answers right away. You can take a minute to breathe and say, let me think about that. And people who show up and are willing to do that, again, it just speaks volumes for you as a person because you're not pretending to have all the answers right away. You're not pretending to be perfect. You're showing that, look, I'm not perfect, but I do have strengths that I'm bringing to the table. So big, deep breaths. It's all good. I know it's scary to take that leap into something, but what they say about all of us just kind of like making it up as we go, we really, really do. There are artists that are so much further along on their journeys than I am, and they have the same feelings that I do. They have feelings where they wake up and feel that all their ideas are gone, or they're not good enough, or they're uninspired, or whatever the case may be. And so you aren't alone in your feelings, and they are not what makes you a beginner. They are what makes you human and an artist. So take on those internships, learn all you can, ask a lot of questions, and you are golden. All right, the final question comes in from Lucia, and she says, "Hi Dylan, replying to your lovely reaching out message. I'm trying to move from fine art to illustration. And while I'm in the making, I can go with the flow. But when I look at what I've done, it doesn't feel like me. It feels old. It doesn't inspire me to do more. So I lose my passion and cry when I see something nice made by others, as it feels so far out of reach. I feel lost as I don't know how to express creativity with joy anymore from when I tried to make art as a business. Thank you for your strategy." Lucia, I have some good news for you. I know that this feeling, this blocker, and I know from experience that it feels really deep and scary and like there's just no wading through it. The good news is there's actually some very constructive, linear steps you can take to get your artwork into a place where you feel like you're liking the results more. The first thing I want to say is to pat yourself on the back for being able to sit down and make art and feel in the flow. Even if the end result isn't what you're wanting, that's a huge, huge thing to have undertaken, to find joy in the art making process and to sit down and enjoy it. That's something that even I struggle with sometimes. I can make an end result that I like, but sometimes it's really hard for me to get myself to sit down and do it. So just give yourself some grace there. But also, here is my advice for how to sort of take on this issue. I want you to take a piece of artwork that you have done that you enjoyed making, but you don't like the end result of. And then I want you to find a piece of artwork that somebody else has made that you really love, one of the ones that makes you feel sad or like you don't have what it takes. And I want you to put them side by side. And either looking at them together or looking at them one at a time, I want you to ask yourself what it is you don't like and do like about each piece. Because it's not just a cover of, oh, I don't like this. There are reasons that you're not liking your artwork, and there are reasons that you're drawn to these other pieces. And the more that you can be, on the lookout for what those things are, the sooner you can start to bridge the gap between what you're making and what you're loving. So here's a concrete example of that. I was working with a coaching client, and she's a painter. She's a very talented painter. And Lucia, you're talented too, and you're passionate. I've seen your work before. I know you from Skillshare, so that's not the issue here. This artist, she was making really beautiful work, and she felt similarly disconnected from it. And so I had her make a mood board of a bunch of work that she really loved from other artists, and I made her make a mood board of her completed works that she felt disconnected from. And I looked at them and immediately realized that almost all of the artwork that she loved from other artists used color palettes that were really warm, whereas her color palettes were almost decidedly cool. Even the warmer colors she was using, like red and oranges, they were like these cooler versions of those colors. And so I took one of her paintings into Photoshop and slightly adjusted the temperature, and she almost started crying. She was so excited. She's like, "That's it. I love this. That's the piece. That's me." And so you might be closer than you think, and it might just mean taking time to actually ask yourself, why isn't this work working, and why are these other people's pieces working for me? I would suggest using the principles and elements as a way to sort of guide yourself through that. Look at line style, look at contrast, look at balance. What's different between what you're making and what other people are making? I have a class on Skillshare called Leveling Up Your Art Game, where I walk through the principles and elements of design and show you how you can use it to develop your style, to critique your work, and to understand the work of other people. So if you haven't taken that, I would suggest that. And have other people look at it. If you're too wrapped up in it and you can't see, have other people look that will be honest with you, not friends and family. They won't be honest with you. And see what they see, try to see it through their eyes. One thing that you mentioned is you felt that your work looked really old. That's a word that came from you. So what is it in your work that speaks old to you? Is it the style of shapes you're using? Is it the color palette? Is it the actual medium? Try to dig down to understand better why you're reacting to the way you're reacting to your art so that you can take steps to start working that stuff in. For me, I would do the same thing. I would sit down and paint, and I would really enjoy the paints as I was using them, but then at the end, the results just weren't there. And I realized that I was using these really bright Kodachrome colors that just weren't resonating with me. And when I started painting with much more earthy and inkier tones, that totally changed it for me. But I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't taken the time to look at the watercolor work that I love of other artists, to kind of break that down for myself. And lastly, I just want to mention that while I do think that we can take our styles and develop them to be something that we enjoy more, I do think that there's just this natural hand that we have that we can't control. And so partly, the work that I make, I do like my style a lot, and I love the work that I make. A lot of the pieces feel so exciting to me, but that doesn't mean that I don't go onto Instagram and fall in love with 50 other pieces that are totally different, that I love and wish that I could make. But that's okay. It's okay to not love and be in love number one with the artwork that we make. It should feel like you, though. When I look at my work, it feels like me. And so if your work isn't feeling like you and you aren't liking it, try to take those steps to figure out how it can feel more like you. And don't just look at other people's work, but go to your closet. Look at the colors that you naturally pick out and wear. Look at the things you've decorated your home with. And try to use those as tools to break it down and work that back into your own work. And I bet you'll start feeling more connected to it. So there we have it, episode 3. It's not episode 3, it's episode 2. Oh boy. So there we have episode 2. I'm sorry for the lag in time between episode 1 and 2 if you were hoping to see something sooner. However, it's just one of those things, we can't be perfect in all areas of our lives. And so I took the summer to work on some work and visit my family and do the things I need. And that made me much more better to come and sit here and be clear-headed and be able to answer these questions. Much better than I would have if I tried to hold myself to a regular schedule these last few months. So thank you for your patience. If you would like to ask a question, the link below will take you to a form where you can submit your question, and you can also elect whether you would like to be anonymous or not. And if I can leave you with just one more thing, it's that I hope that you will take some time to be creative today. I know that our brains tell us that 5 minutes and 10 minutes don't make a difference, but on days when you're doing nothing, it certainly does. And I mean doing nothing art-wise. I don't mean doing nothing. Every little bit counts, so please, if you can get your sketchbook out or just scribble something on a Post-it note, every time you sit down to be creative, it counts and it matters. I'll see you guys next time.